Now, speaking of Toto, I mean, you guys, like you said, you put it all together in '76. You're all friends from school and everything like that. I mean, as kids, did you ever think you were going to achieve what you went on to achieve?
Um, well, you have the dream, but you never really know how it's going to go. I mean, I've been really lucky in the sense that I've had a couple of different careers and all this as a studio musician and in Toto and as a solo artist. And, that keeps me real busy. I used to produce records sometimes, but, there's no money in doing that. And actually, records have a shelf life of about a month now
Yeah.
because there's so
Okay.
much stuff coming out. You hit it hard and then it gets a little legs, and then you just got to look at the overall long period of time, how the catalog sells over time. You know what I mean? We got to be on the road to keep all this going. You know what I mean?
And you speak about playing live and everything. I mean, when you talk about Toto in the early days and the first record that came out and Hold the Line was such a smash hit, and you're playing that in front of crowds and you're getting the reception and you're seeing how it all blew up for you. I mean, that must have been phenomenal.
It was a thrill. It was a thrill. I mean, your first hit record as an artist is something you never forget. Hearing it on the radio the first
Yeah.
time, seeing the success and multi-platinum success and all that, we were like, wow, it was the dream coming true. You know what I mean? And then the worst thing about that is then you have to follow it up. You know what
Yes.
I mean? It's like, okay, this was really great, but we were so, I mean, we were young and cocky, like, wow, we're gonna do this, blah 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 blah. We're not listening to anybody, and then we kind of we're trying to find ourselves, and we reconnected to what we really were and what we really are on Toto IV. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We were experimenting, trying to find, because when we started out as a band, we were in high school and stuff like that. But when we started as Toto per se, we made the record before we ever played live.
Wow.
So I
That's
mean, we played live together with Boz and together in school for a long many years, and we just walked in and Dave sat down the piano and goes, I got this song here, let's play this. And then it was like, okay, we're in, and next thing you know, we're making a record.
that's
So
incredible, isn't it?
I was just thrilled to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's almost backwards from what everybody else does. Everyone else kind of
Yes.
cuts their teeth live in front of an audience, finds out what works, what doesn't work, change a bit of the song here or there or whatever. But you guys have done it backwards.
Well, the thing was, I mean, we were coming off, I should say Dave and Jeff were coming off the success
Steely
of
Dan,
Boz
yeah,
Scaggs Silk Degrees. And we did the tour out of high school, pretty much, maybe give or take a year. And from there, we started doing demos. The first demos we did with Toto was January 77. And by October 77, post the Boz Scaggs summer tour that we did, Sony just said, we hear, they went to Dave and Jeff and said, we hear you guys got a band, we want you. Just don't look anywhere else. Well, we'll make a deal. And so we made a great deal. And the next thing you know, that's how it happened. So it wasn't like we were playing in the clubs and got discovered.
yeah.
We
And
were
you meant
doing all that. We were doing all that in school. So we paid our dues doing that, doing weddings and all this kind of crappy gigs that you would do as a young musician. To get our sea legs, we were studying hard so we could get into maybe possibly being studio players. Because Jeff was in Steely Dan when we were in
yeah,
high school, and David Paich was working on those records as well. He played on Steely stuff, and they were the two young hot guys in L.A. And so I got to meet all the other studio musicians that I looked up on, all the guitar players, Lee Ritenour, Larry Carlton, Jay Graydon, Ray Parker Jr., Dean Parks. The list goes on. You know what I mean? And my buddy Mike Landau came up with me.
yeah.
We've known each other since we were 12. So I mean, and we're still close buddies. We see each. I saw him for his birthday last week. So
Incredible.
tendency is just the guys we came up with all kind of made it. Even whether they were in the band or not. John Pierce, who's in Toto now and was with Huey Lewis for 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
He was my first friend in life. I mean, our moms were pregnant on the same block. And we played together all through school. And then in high school, we met the Picaro brothers, and he was in the band Still Life with Landau, me, and Carlos Vega, Steve Picaro. That was the rhythm section of Carlos Vega. And Jeff Picaro and David Paich would come down and play at our high school gigs with us. So, I mean, it was a thrilling time because you see the potential of your future and you really have a goal.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I mean, I was geographically placed well and got lucky to get in the door, but it's not luck to get called back. You're lucky to get in the door and get the shot, but if they call you back, then it's based upon your talent. and your vibe. So I was lucky to have some great mentors and all that, how to handle my Jeff was great in teaching me how to handle myself on sessions and how it all goes and everything.
Incredible stuff. And you talked about Toto IV just a little bit earlier, and I mean that was just incredible. Grammy, multi-platinum, everything. It was just phenomenal success
Yeah,
for
it
that
went
record.
crazy, man. But here's the irony of that. I mean, the record company told us if we didn't have a hit, they were going to drop us. So that's motivating. And at that point, we just said, you know what? We're trying to be something. Let's just be. Let's just write, and whatever comes out, comes out. And then that got you Toto IV. And at that point, I think we had been playing together as a band, and we had toured, and we had found ourselves. And that point, all the dots connected, and we came up with this record, man. That we're still very proud of that record, but it was definitely a sink or swim record.
Absolutely, and it was kind of groundbreaking as well in terms of the tracks that are on there and the reaction it got from people, and not just from punters, but from musicians themselves. I remember speaking to John Parr, who said he listened to that and thought he's never going to be able to write a song again, listening to how good you guys were and how could he ever compete with things like that.
That's not true, man. I mean, everybody has their own thing, man. I mean, I'm not a musical snob. I mean, I love all kinds of music, and I can listen to it, different music right after each other, and not be weirded out by it.
Yeah,
From
absolutely.
classical to hard funk to jazz to old school bebop to country music to fun, to hard metal, old classic rock. I'm still a big Beatles fan. You know what I mean?
Of course. And just staying with Total 4 just for a few minutes. I mean, the resurgence of Africa. I mean, that kind of a song that was buried at the end of the album, and
Yeah,
it just grew legs and arms and everything else, didn't it? And especially in the last few years, where it's garnered a whole new audience for you.
you couldn't. We couldn't. First off, that's the weirdest song we've ever recorded. I mean, if somebody was going to say, "Play me something that is a perfect example of Toto," I would point them to Rosanna as opposed to Africa. Africa was like sort of a fun production experiment. It was like the first time we hooked up 4 24-track tape machines in sync, which was not done in 1981. You know what I mean? And we filled up all these tracks. I mean, it was a lot of fun to do. But then we heard, we made the whole track before we heard the lyrics, and then we kind of cracked up at that, and we dug the record, but the lyrics are a bit silly. Come on, we know that, but it was like, okay, this is a cool record, but okay, anybody that can put Serengeti and all this stuff in a lyric, I mean,
Kilimanjaro,
Dave,
yeah.
Dave and Jeff really stretched the possibilities there, but we kind of like tongue in cheek, and we're like, well, this is a cool record. I mean, it's a weird little quirky record, and we never knew it was going to have legs like this. I mean, we recorded it in 1981. And now all of a sudden it went in through this metamorphosis. And yes, it did really help us. It gave us a big kick in the ass and brought us a younger audience. That Weezer record, that was a hit. And that brought us some more different people. And we even did festivals in Australia where there was like all 18-year-old kids. And most people were just dancing around with their Pro Tools. They weren't even really playing. And we thought, oh my God, these guys are going to hate us, man. We're a bunch of older musicians that ain't the prettiest motherfuckers in the world. So we play, I mean, I don't know if that's going to get it. They'll know one song. I was going, oh God, what are we going to do? And we went out and played, and we killed it. And it was like they'd never really seen live music. It was so obviously different than the just playing the record and dancing around. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, it's all the production, the dancing, all this stuff. And they get a band real cheap because they're just faking it to the Pro Tools anyway, and people don't seem to mind that. And that's fine if that's what you want. But I came up thinking you actually had to really play to make it in the music business.
Yeah, indeed you did. And just you mentioned again the Beatles. That's a good place to talk. A lot of people I speak to, they all point to one thing that started them in their musical life, and it was the Beatles. And I know it's the same for you as well.
Yep.
And you've been so lucky to have performed with, recorded with, worked with the three remaining Beatles. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Well, there's only 2 remaining Beatles now.
Well, now, yeah.
Sadly, George passed, and he was my first guitar hero and a friend, I'm honored to say. And I got to work with Paul on the Thriller record with Michael Jackson. Then we worked on the movie, and then I got to do the Beatles 50th anniversary show. And so I mean that's the on switch to my life. And then Ringo and I have become close friends over the last 9 years. He's going to live to be 200 years old. He's an amazing man. I'm honored to call him my friend. Really, I really am.
Phenomenal stuff. And just, I don't know if you'd mind indulging us with a story, because I heard you tell it once, and it was a jam with yourself at Jeff Lynne's house with Bob Dylan and George, and it's like, how on earth did that come
And Jim
about?
Keltner, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that was. Well, I didn't see that coming. George and I, became friends in 1992 when I met him, and he came and played at the Jeff Porcaro tribute, which was like more than amazing. I didn't, how do you do? And then he started calling me, and we were hanging out. Whenever he'd come to LA, we'd hang out and have dinner. And so he invited me out for dinner. And then when I was there, Bob Dylan showed up, and I'm going, oh wow, okay. I'm sitting between Bob Dylan and George Harrison at the dinner table, going like, if my high school friends could see me now, and then George goes, let's go up to Jeff's and have a jam, And I'm like, are you kidding? Yeah, let's do this. And we did. We were just up there messing around. It was me and George on guitar, Dylan on bass, Keltner on a electric kit, and Jeff Lynne on keyboards. And we were just sitting around jamming on a few Beatle things and, just fucking around. It was just an amazing moment.
Like you said, if you could have told your 18-year-old self that at that stage you'd be sitting with legends like that, it'd be,
No, man, I never thought,
mind-blowing.
all the people that I've had a chance to work with and, the legends that I've been honored to work with. I find myself in a room looking around going, wow. Not so much now, but when I was young, you know what I mean? Now I know everybody, and
Yeah.
it's not so weird. I've been doing this for almost 45 years as a real recording and touring musician. I obviously years before that studying and playing every gig that I could get my hands on.
Yeah. And you mentioned that the Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney and everything like that, and you worked on Thriller, and you put down tracks and stuff for Thriller, and Beat It, obviously the big story behind that. Beat It, I think you told the story that almost that was recorded backwards as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was recorded because there was another version of it before Eddie did the solo, and somebody cut the 2-inch tape, which screwed up the SMPTE code, which locks all the tapes up again.
Yep.
So Quincy asked me and Jeff to put the record back together again because they needed to keep those tracks first generation, because that was so you had to think about that back then.
Yeah.
And so Jeff, there was no click track or nothing. Jeff had to go out and make his own click based on the bleed through of Michael's lead vocal in the headphones that was recorded while he was doing the vocal, and Michael hitting 2 and 4 like one da do ba on a drum case. And so Jeff went out and made his own click with drumsticks. Then he played the drums to that, and he locked it up. By the second take, he nailed it. And so then I started putting all the guitars on it. I played the bass on it. And at first I made, since I knew Eddie was playing on it, and Quincy was at the Westlake Audio, and we were at Sunset Sound. He wasn't even there. We were on the phone going, Bobby, here's what's going on. And we made the whole record, but I quadrupled I made a big Marshalls and everything like that. And Quincy's like, I love it, but it's too much. I got to get this on R&B radio. I can't do it with these, it's too big. Use one of your little Fender amps and turn down the distortion a little bit. You know what I mean? So I had to redo that. And then I went over and worked with Michael and Quincy on the rest of it, and came up with some of the other ideas to help them with the rest of the parts. Because I played all the guitars and the bass, and Jeff played drums, and Michael sang, and Eddie played the solo.
Phenomenal.
So, a lot of people think Eddie played all the riffs and everything like that, but he didn't.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow. And then obviously the Girl Is Mine with Paul McCartney and everything, you worked with him.
That was the first thing. That was the first thing we cut for Thrill.
That was the first one, was it, really?
Yeah. And believe me, that was a thrill when Jeff and I got that call. We were like, oh, wow, McCartney. Finally get to meet a Beatle, man. We were really expecting McCartney. Wow, And so that was a wonderful experience. Him and Linda were so awesome. And then we got invited to Give My Regards to Broad Street, but they didn't tell us we had to wear makeup and wigs until we got there, But that was an incredible experience just for the hang for 2 weeks with Paul, Linda, George Martin, Jeff Emmerich, their engineer. And I got to sit in every lunch day, sit around and talk about, so how'd you get the sound on this? And what did you do? How'd you record that? Blah, blah, man, I love this. What was the thought process here? And they all love to talk about it. So it was really just like a dream come true.
Wow, geek out time, absolutely.
I'm still a fan, man. I'm still a fan of music and musicians. Even though I've been doing this a long time, I got to work with so many incredible legends and stuff like that, really famous people and stuff. Yeah. I don't get starstruck per se anymore, but I do get like humbled and wow, I can't, I'm respecting that I got invited into this room with these guys. You know what I mean? It
Absolutely.
doesn't get old, and I don't think I'm all that. I'm still like really humble, and I can't even believe I'm here most of the time, you know.
Incredible to be. And then with a band like Toto who sold, I don't know, 40 million records or something like that, but you guys were all such fantastic, well, virtuosos when it comes to your instruments. I mean, you guys were,
Still working on it, man. You know, it's a
well,
never-ending quest, you know.
no, don't give us that. You were technically proficient. You were really good in terms of being asked back to be session musicians. I mean, some people in bands probably saw themselves as being too big for session musicians, but the opportunities you got to work with these incredible superstars across different
Well,
genres
yeah, I
of
mean,
music as
here's the
well.
thing. People don't even really understand what studio musicians making records are. I mean, if you're doing TV film, you're just reading the dots, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're reading the music. And that's a special skill to be able to walk in and coldly sight read completely written out music that's really like, wow, you got to have chops for that. I mean, I can read music, but damn, we got handed chord charts, that's it.
Yep.
We came up and wrote all of our own parts on the spot, many times in 1 or 2 takes. You
Wow.
had to go, well, what am I going to play when I see a G seventh chord or something? You can't just go ding, 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 ding kind of chord. You got to come listen to what everybody's trying to sneak in. There was no demos, there were no rehearsals. You just showed up and go, what are we doing? Who are we doing? What kind of music are we playing today? So it definitely required a skill that a lot of rock stars don't have. Because I was on sessions with guys that were real famous and really good, but they froze up
Yep.
having to do it like that. And it was like, wow, man, you just kind of sitting back going, okay, well, some people are meant to just play their music. I mean, it's a different mindset. You have to have an arranger's mind. So you have to think about not what the singers, you have to listen to the song and what the singer's doing and play something to complement that, as opposed to, hey, dig what I can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And there's times when, like you said, the first or second take is used, and that happened famously, didn't it,
Yeah.
with Lionel Richie one time when you went in and you were just noodling and trying to
I
figure
was
out.
just noodling around going, yeah, play the track for me, man. I got a sound and I go, well, play the sound. Let me play it. I'm just going to mess around and see how it goes. So I just instinctually listened to the track and played it. And I go, okay, man, I'm ready to do one now. And he said, no, you're done. Get out of here. And I'm like, Lionel, are you serious? I played all over this thing way too much. He goes, I love it. So when people go, well, yeah, man, Lukather played a lot on there. I thought I was warming up.
Brilliant, but there you go. It's the last stood the test of time. Sorry, and
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
it clearly has.
I mean, I don't, it just cracks me up when I'm in the mall with my kids or something like that, and it comes on over the mall. I'm going, yeah, wow, man, long time ago, but it was a lot of fun. I've
Absolutely.
always dug Lyle. He's a good dude.
Yeah, a long time ago and a lot of fun, and a lot of that is in your books as well. I mean, the
Oh
fact.
yeah, yeah. No, I wrote about the. I mean, I couldn't write about all of it, but the 400 pages hit the ground. I mean, it was too long and too much, and some of it I was like, I don't want to tell that story. That's too much. There's a lot of things I just couldn't tell. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. The Gospel according to Luke is out there and well worth the read. Absolutely. And there's one last question that I ask everybody. I've put together a playlist of songs that are curated just from the artists themselves. They give me one song from their back catalogue. Can you give me one Toto song that you want to add to this playlist, and give me a reason why you've selected that one track in particular?
On the Toto 14 record, there's a song called Great Expectations, which is one of our a little bit more of our proggy kind of things.
Okay.
Most people go, oh, that Africa band, you know what I mean? It's like, to us, that's like, wow, man, that's the weirdest tune we ever did. And if that's what you think the whole band is all about, then I'd love to show another side. So this would be a great, I mean, you could probably get a hold of that somewhere on the internet or something like that.
Absolutely.
We were proud of how that came out, and it's not a hit song that everybody knows. You know what I mean? It's something that we really just dug writing and recording.
And do you remember much about the writing or recording of that one?
Yeah, I mean, we would, it was something that we said, okay, we're going to write something a little bit more muso. You know what I mean? But we still wanted to have the connection of vocals and stuff. And so everybody brought in pieces, and then we put it all together and made it work. So that was a fun. We've done that process many times on a song called "Better World" off of one of our albums. That was written by Dave, me, and Simon, and all three of us wrote different sections of the song, and we just put it together. and where I wrote the lyrics and sang it. But other than that, I mean, there's a lot of the stuff that we've got. What, 14, 15, 16 records out or something like that? There's a lot of music to choose from.